They might talk about humor, music, film, books, football and box sets, exercise and maybe even food, trivia and sport, politics and health, sometimes well-being too. On the Life with Brian. On the Life with Brian.
Hello and welcome to Life with Brian, the Brian McClare podcast. Mark and Matthew here as the support cast to the aforementioned Brian McClare, erstwhile winner of medals that us mere mortals could only dream of during his previous life as a player with Celtic and Manchester United. And let's not forget Aston Villa and Motherwell too. Brian, how was your Christmas and New Year? And more importantly, how did your profiteroles turn out that you told us about on our last episode with Michelle Roux?
Yeah, the profiteroles, I was going to make them for Christmas Day, but somebody else had bought them, so I postponed them until New Year. The only slight little problem was I didn't have any parchment paper, so I had to make do a little bit. But yeah, no, they went down very well.
So what you're saying is you didn't make them at all, you bought them?
No, I made them in New Year's. I didn't make them for Christmas Day, but I made them for New Year's Day.
You made them, but you just kept them.
Yeah, in Scotland you have, it's traditional on New Year's Day to have steak pie. Okay. You'll have had that many a time in year.
Yeah,
so it was steak pie and charades.
The cream kept for a week, did it?
No, the shops are open in between, you know. It's not that bad, you know.
Now, our special guest today didn't collect medals during his illustrious sporting career. He collected belts, the most notable of which was the WBA Lightweight World title. So welcome former boxer and big Manchester United fan Anthony Crolla. How are you, Anthony?
Hello, boys. I'm good. Thank you. It's good to be home with you guys. So, yeah, no, all good. The Reds are playing better, aren't they? And exciting times. So, all good.
You want to talk about United first, Anthony?
We can talk about whatever, Brian. I'm easy, pal. Whatever we want.
Yeah, you've seen you talking a few different things about United on various different things. You're not been participating in the march to Old Trafford because of your lad. It's difficult to explain to your boy about why he can't go into the game for the beginning of the game. You know.
Yeah, so. It's hard because he doesn't get that. Obviously, he's only 9 years old, but he knows. Obviously, he's very much, Glazier's out and this and that. Like he gets that, but he's a little bit too young, I think, for the marches and stuff like that. Yeah.
Who are his favourite players at the moment now? Do
you know what? He's always been a big Rashford fan, and I think certainly the form what he's returned to is frightening at the minute. So he's always been a big Rashford fan, and he also likes Casemiro. Casemiro, I think every fan is a real fan favourite right now. He's a magical player, isn't he? So yeah, they're two of his favourites.
And what do you think Rashford's return to form is down to? Anything you can think about?
Do you know what? All I heard was very much sort of over the break. He was working very, very hard. Whether that was harder than normal or he changed a few things, different types of training or whatever it may be, whether it be diet, lifestyle, no idea, right? But whatever it is, it's certainly working, isn't it? Whatever it is, it's certainly working, and he's in the form of his career right now, and he's a joy to watch. And I think, like you say, I think from sort of the start of the season, really, it's but certainly the last sort of up to the World Cup and since he's returned, he's really coming to his own, and he's becoming the player, or he's showing to be the player that we all hoped he would be.
Can you see, well, one of the things you just said there, and I think it's more, well, particularly in my experience, is that when you've got a happy, content athlete with an uncluttered mind, you tend to get one who is enjoying their participation in that activity, whether that's the day-to-day stuff and the coaching and training, which then transforms into performances on the pitch. Can you see that, or can you remember similar things when you were boxing yourself, and now you're training? And is it a similar thing? You think that that
Brian,
enjoying himself every day? And
absolutely, pal. I think, there's a saying in boxing: an happy fighter is a dangerous fighter, and I really believe that. So I think you could also say the same in football: a happy player is a dangerous player, and every time he's in front of goal, every time he gets the ball, he's a danger, isn't it? So to the opponent. So very similar. And I think no matter what, as you know, Brian, like you say, if your mind's clear, a load of clutter, you're in a good place mentally, it goes a long way. It doesn't matter I think in any sport or in any job type, I feel like I'm right in saying, although I'm not educated to have an opinion on a lot of jobs, if your mind is clear and, you've got talent to go with that, you're going to succeed, aren't you? Obviously, the hard work counts for an awful lot as well. But it's just like they say, physically you can have it all, but if you're not there mentally, it's not going to happen, is it? So maybe like you just mentioned then, I don't know if I said that, mentally he seems so much stronger as well.
Was that something, Brian, in your day that was considered? Because it seems like it's a very modern thing, but did players talk about that kind of thing in the dressing room in your day, Brian, or was it just a case of getting on with it?
Which part?
Well, having a sort of sound mental position in terms of your. And how
I think that there was. No, I don't think that there's. I think there was the situations that were tried to be created by the people who were involved in you that would endear you to a good training environment, a hard. I don't say difficult, but a hard work environment. Very much to do with the depending on what particular day it was, and depending on how the coach and the manager had felt that the game had gone at the weekend or midweek. They would adjust the training regime accordingly. So sometimes, much to my dismay, on Monday morning, we would get quite a tough session because the manager had felt that the game on Saturday had been relatively easy. This is when we started to be a bit more successful. And it used to annoy the hell out of me because I used to just want to... I got excited when the ball came out, Anthony. That was my only interest, really. And several coaches have developed what I used to call disguised running. Several of it used to be with the ball, And it didn't take me long to work out exactly what it was, but I love playing the football game. That's what I enjoyed doing. There wasn't really that much chat about, how you felt mentally, or, there's a lot of stuff about, certainly in football, how you feel. Yeah. And a lot of the times in the morning, particularly when you've got young kids and you're getting up and you're taking them to school, a lot of the time you got to training by 9:30, you felt like shit, particularly if you're listening to Gary Pallister's music all the way in.
But you played under some pretty fierce managers, not just Fergie, Jock Wallace.
Yeah,
that must have driven some players to the edge. I mean, you weren't strong enough to take that mentally.
I think that part of the thing, I'm sure that I don't know about pushing them to the edge, but certainly that made it more difficult for them. But I think the whole idea of it was that they expected you and the rest of your teammates to be able to solve the problems you face on the pitch. And you think that they recognised you needed a strong mentality and some kind of confidence to do that. You couldn't, there wasn't enough breaks in the game for any messages to really get on from the manager. So you had to kind of solve very situations on the pitch, Sometimes the information had already been imparted and it was down to the ones who could remember to remind those ones who had whose concentration and memory wasn't so great. So almost guaranteed. For example, when Paul Ince was playing in the team, Paul would spend more time trying to be the last player to leave the leave the dressing room and the last player to walk on the pitch, and he wouldn't put strip on until they get into the tunnel. This was his whole focus. Now, the last thing that the manager would say before you left the dressing room was just have one last look at the graphics with regards to defending set pieces. We didn't work a lot on the offensive set pieces. We certainly would never have counted and even accepted a set piece offensive coach that several teams have got now. But that's what you're encouraged to do, and almost guarantee every single game would lose a corner early on, and there would be a fucking mess up in the box, and guarantee that mess up was because Insee wasn't where he was supposed to be. So one of us, me particularly, because I always paid attention to where you're supposed to be, where I'm supposed to be, and it's not that difficult, a set piece, front post, you and Mark, and it would almost, what the fucking hell is that? Insee, that's your fucking man. No, it's not my fucking man. It is your fucking man. And there'd be an argument about it, and the next time it'd be, get you fucking man. I'm not, just you fucking Mark. Whether it was me or Brian Robson or somebody else in the team, Steve Bruce, we were all encouraged that the information was there, and because knowing fine well that you couldn't continue to let that happen because it was causing a problem. Paul was ended up marking no one, but he couldn't remember. He didn't pay enough attention to it because he was too busy trying to be the last man on the pitch.
That's very much a team sport thing. I'm just thinking for you, Anthony, in a solo sport like boxing, who do you turn to for that kind of? I mean, obviously you got your coach and your corner man, but there must be times when it's just you against the world.
Of course, that's listening to that. It's a throwback that, because I remember that was a crazy superstition of Paul Incee's, wasn't it? Of the shirt going on in the tunnel and being last one out. But I think, listen, your coach, you've got to put full trust in your coach. Obviously, you devise a game plan before the fight, but if you're following that game plan and it's not working, then you have to make adjustments, don't you? And you can, you have 3 minutes, don't you? But if something, going tragically wrong inside those 3 minutes, and unless it changes quickly, you're not going to get to the corner to listen to your coach. You've got to learn to adapt yourself. And I think that comes with experience and sort of putting scenarios in the gym, like, worse, you've been there, just sort of not second guessing it's of course second guessing what's happening. But I mean, it's the, preparing yourself for those kind of scenarios, those little crises, what you'll do, to, I always say, sort of keeping a cool head, in those kind of things, because you're in the heat of battle, and it's so important not to act on emotions, which I believe in any sport. I'm sure Brian will say the same in football. I don't know one sport that you would be successful at if you just played on emotions. Yeah, there'll be matches both on a football pitch and in a boxing ring where emotions might sometimes, when you've got to dig down, you've got to bite on that gum shield, or you've really got to, really dig deep, that emotions, you can play on them to get you through. But I think, to carry out a game plan and stuff like that, you can't rely or act on emotions. So, it's just about, I think, keeping that cool edge. In boxing, you can only rely on yourself. Your cornerman, of course, unless you've got someone very trusted from the ringside who's shouting out good advice, and not someone pissed who's been in the VIP bar for hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not looking at anyone in particular, Brian.
No, you know what I mean, don't you? But that's it.
Well, what I was going to say now, the sort of situation you're in now, Anthony, you're training now, you're in the corner.
Yeah.
And I went on to, I always wanted to be a football player, like you always wanted to be a boxer, but I knew that I was going to come to an end, as you did yourself at some point. And I kind of ended up falling into coaching, but I really enjoyed that part of that. I really enjoyed it because just to see that somebody taking a little bit of information on board, and then that becoming it becoming worthwhile in practice, i.e. in a game or something like that somebody listened to what you'd said, and it had kind of worked out that way. But when I first got a job in coaching, I quickly realised I knew fuck all about it. I played football, I'd watched football, but the actual coaching and understanding about how I can communicate, how can I make a difference, I had to start again. So did you have ambitions to become a trainer during your boxing career, or did you just decide or did it just fall upon you?
Do you know what, right? I always had ambitions to go into coaching, right? But what my aim was, even when I was professional, even when I won a world title, defending a world title, I was always, up until a few weeks before, I was always in my old amateur gym. I was helping out with the kids there. I just found it rewarding. And so I would enjoy the coaching part of it. And I might pass up to my professional coach, just basically just passing up to him in the corner. So I always had a taste for it. So, yeah. But then I think sort of becoming from a very good coach, I feel like I picked up stuff from him. I felt like I picked up stuff from him and picked up stuff from other great coaches that I've worked with along the way. And I believe that helps you on your way to becoming a coach. But as you know, I feel like you've got to put your own stamp on things, haven't you? You've got to put your own stamp on things. So when I'm in the gym with my lads and the girl who are coach as well, I can't sort of just do back-to-back what I did or what my coach did with me, because then I'd just be sort of being a carbon copy, wouldn't I? And I believe that each fighter has got to be trained a little bit different. There'll be times when they train as a pack, but then there's times when they get the individual time. But I believe that I'm very inexperienced as a coach, but I believe, me, Brian, I just think, you can study, you can be around other good coaches and just try and not rob their ideas, but take bits from them. Do you know what I mean? And that was always the thing for me, where I did always think, I will go into coaching at some point, but I never planned on having a stable of professional fighters. It happened one, and then it snowballed a little bit, and I could take on more, but you don't want to take on too many and not give them the time that they deserve, individually. But yeah, it is like you say, it's very different, isn't it? It's very, very different. It's not all players, I imagine, or not all boxers become great coaches, or not all players that we see become great managers.
That's an interesting one, Brian, because I'm thinking you've played under probably the greatest manager in football history, and then you take your coaching badges and they might be teaching you to do something completely different. I'm surely in the back of your mind, you're probably thinking, well, hang on a minute, I played under Alex Ferguson. So what do you go with?
Well, what happens in with regards to qualifying as a coach is that, the people who are really good, when I did my A license, which was the best license you could, or the highest license you could at the time, was that we had very good teachers in that they said, look, this is a course that has been written, has been sanctioned by UEFA. It's a bit like your driving test. You have to go through a process, and we have to be able to see that you're capable of doing what's in the process. I remember having conversations with coaches, more particularly with Jim Ryan, who was a reserve team coach when I was a player at Manchester United. And I used to ask him, well, come on, what's the trick of it? What's this, what's that? And he would just go, you'll find your own way. And that used to frustrate me. I used to drive me mad. And I used to think, I don't, just fucking tell me, right?
Yeah, just give us the answer.
Just tell me what it is, you'll find your own way. And he was right. I did eventually find my own way. I did things that Alex Ferguson did that I was comfortable doing. I'm not one to be shouting and screaming at people. And I took little things from everybody. My whole idea, Anthony, was to create a fun learning environment.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to enjoy myself every day. I still want to enjoy myself every day. Yeah. But that's what I wanted. I wanted those young players to come up to think, well, I didn't do so well today, but I enjoyed that. And my whole idea was that
they took something from that.
Yeah, so there might have been just that day, but I never wanted them to come back to me now, 20, 25 years later, and say, I didn't enjoy that, because I would be really disappointed by that, because that was my main thing. And if they enjoyed it, and I didn't used to tell them, I didn't go in and say, this is what we're doing today. I just put a session on, hoping that they would pick something up out of the session. We didn't do any of this stuff that they have to do now about evaluating each individual player after each session, after the sessions. I just was comfortable that the one part of it was I knew that my players were in peak physical condition.
Yeah.
Because I did all the things I hated, Anthony.
Yes.
And I knew how I felt physically doing all those things in pre-season. I fucking hated them.
Yeah.
And I did them all the same pish as well, the same banter, the same stuff to cajole them into it. And I knew how fit they were. After that, for me, it was just a matter of it kind of continue to try and pass the ball to each other. And that's basically the essence of football, and move around a bit.
What was it? Do you know what, man? I wanted to ask your opinion, because you mentioned doing coaching badges and stuff like that. It's probably a bit of a controversial one. It's the same in boxing. What's your opinion on, former players? Do you think they should have to do the badges, or do you think they should automatically?
Yeah, because as I said,
all levels.
Yeah, because you'll always learn something from it.
Yeah,
and you'll always meet people now. So particularly in football, there's a lot of stuff about networking. On that course that I was on, there was the first time they had a course dedicated for professional football players, ex-professional football players.
Yeah,
and there was 40, and out of the 40, there was 38 ex-players.
Yes,
and a number of them were ex-international players. So the actual people I met and got friendly with on that course was we helped each other through. It was brilliant. Now I think they do, because in no other industry, Anthony, when you take somebody from the shop floor, and make them the manager of it.
Yes.
And then you wonder why they fail.
I get that.
You've all got ideas about how to do something, and I'm sure people working in other industries have got ideas of how they would do things, but they're not likely to get that. Now, and it keeps happening, and it keeps happening, and it keeps happening. And the majority of times, the players will fail, and they will not be given another opportunity.
Yeah.
So, and I think the other thing about it is, because there are people who have not had such stellar careers who have become very good coaches.
Successful,
historically, and they should all go through the same process. As I said, I quickly realised, even though I'd passed my licence, I got a job at Manchester United with reserves. I didn't know, I knew nothing about coaching.
Yes, yeah.
However, I was surrounded by I was like in a hotbed. I had Alex Ferguson, I had Jim Ryan, I had Neil Bailey, I had David Williams, and the academy was Paul McGuinness, Mark Dempsey, Tony Whelan, people who had been coaching at all different levels of the game for such a long period, and the other people in important positions, Les Kershaw, Jeff Watson, people have been doing things for a long time, and I just to stand back and watch them.
You think of the great managers, there's been like Matt Busby, Bill Shankly, Alex Ferguson, all those greats. I assume they never took any kind of coaching badges, and they did. Did they? I was thinking as a way, if you otherwise you could have eliminated some of the greatest managers.
No, certainly Alex Ferguson did his coaching badges.
He did do it,
yeah, and he spent time talking to managers. I know that Alex Ferguson used to go to the same restaurant that Jock Stein would go to on a Saturday night, hoping that he would get a chance to maybe get 10, 15 minutes to chat to him.
So that's his form of doing a coaching badge, just going for a drink with Jock Stein.
Somebody's a mentor, not really. Jock Stein was a drinker, Fergie's not a drinker, but they'd go out for something to eat separately, but Fergie would just find out where he would be going, and he would go there with his missus, and they'd end up at some point being able to have 20 minutes chat about football. Fergie was playing for Rangers at the time, I think, particularly well, so he just recognised that there was people that he wanted to speak to that could even finds little nibbles of information. I used to wonder about why all he would read was biographies and autobiographies. I used to think that life was difficult enough, Anthony. I used to read novels, escapism, things that took you away from that. Maybe some stuff about music, very rarely about anything else. But he was trying to find something that he could use. So he's trying to find something he can use in a team talk that he thought would inspire, So if he's reading about the American General Patton, right, he's trying to work out what can he take from one of his stirring speeches.
Quotes and speeches, yes.
Right,
yeah.
But he wouldn't tell you it's a quote. He just took it from himself, so as far as I'm concerned. It's an Alec Fergusonism. And part of that's, flattery of being able to regurgitate that stuff. And he was very good at it. But he was very much a learner. And he never stopped learning. And he changed and adapted to the player he had to coach as he went through. So the way that he was coaching the team that I went into with Robson and Whiteside and Strachan, for example, to a team that had Evra, Ronaldo, players like that, he'd evolved through that period of time, and he'd learned what to do.
What made him,
and then still being successful in that he found ways to motivate, to recruit, to coach successful teams.
Yeah. Did you have sort of icons like that, Anthony? Getting into boxing, did you have heroes, and would you read up on guys that would influence you?
Well, I come from my father used to box, so when I was sort of brought up early on, I'd be watching videos of the greats and stuff like that. So I was very sort of hooked early on, from some of the great fighters from the past and reading them about them. And I become obsessed with it. But even from an early age, I remember from being 10, 11, and in my local amateur club, sort of when I'd be in a lot of the younger ones, and then I'd end up training a bit with the older lads, and I'd stay behind a little bit. I'd watch. There's a lad who he was the best lad in the club at the time. He was very good, talented lad, and I'd just stay behind watching him. But then it was crazy because as he grew older, he could never stay off the drink, and that's what stopped him being successful, basically. But I used to sit there and watch him for ages and basically, try and do what he done. And I'd learned so much from him. But then as I got a bit older, I learned not to take his outside, to copy his lifestyle too much. Do you know what I mean? But I think there's that. And like Brian said, then with a coach, listening to a coach someone so experienced who can read something so well and, advise you like that. And I think if you can't take advice from people like that, or at least give it a go in training, you're never going to evolve too much, are you? I think, like Brian said then about Fergie, the way he managed to evolve, which made him the greatest manager of all time, in a lot of our opinions, he done it for so long. He done it for so long with such a different group of players, like Brian just said. So I think you've got to be open, haven't you? You've got to be open to listen to different people. I mean, listen, in boxing, you have one head coach, and that's the way I believe it always should be. And you go back to the corner, it's one voice. But you have other people in the team, just like some of the names then that Brian mentioned that Fergie would have had and stuff like that. But I think it's just about, I believe there's different ways of training, isn't there? And it's not always physical. One, it can be mentally, but it can be studying, studying someone or studying opponents and stuff like that. Just making yourself, giving you a better sort of boxing IQ. Whether it be football IQ,
Yeah.
And that's it.
I was thinking that, for anyone that doesn't know, it would be amazing. I mean, you're a big United fan, as we discussed, but I mean, how much of football was part of that escapism from boxing? Because anyone that knows Massive. United, you would be seen at games. I mean, you'd be going home and away in Europe. So that was your escapism, was it?
It really was, and that's what it was. It was just to get away from I mean, that wasn't the reason why, just get away from boxing, but that's what it become. It become, like you just said, that escapism, and it was right up to be honest, my coach used to it wasn't right, but I'd go sometimes when he's, no, I just want you to rest tomorrow. And I go, right, yeah, okay. I'd still go to the match and in the end, he stopped telling me because that's what I wanted to be away from, not to be thinking about boxing. Like Brian said then, like rather than a biography, he'd have a novel or something. I think it's so important, and I'll say it now to my fighters, sometimes just have that little hobby away from the sport. There's one lad I've got now and he's boxing obsessed. And it's a bit like, and he'll go, he's on his own, young single lad. And I'm like, Alex, believe it or not, you're going to stay that way. I'm not saying go out partying and drinking, but you need to just wander out a little bit more. You're not going to meet your future wife sitting in your bedroom and who's randomly going to sit in and start watching some of the great fighters from the 70s with you. Do you know what I mean?
If he does, he's lucky if he meets them.
Yeah.
Is there not ways you can meet women online now?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I say, just put
as long as they like watching boxing from the 70s.
Oh, yeah, that's it, right? But yeah, no, for me. Well, that's what it was at United. It was just football and just not thinking about boxing for a few hours was helped me massively. And yeah.
So who were you? I'm trying to think what era you would have started going to Old Trafford then. I mean, you were a bit younger than us too. So when
my first game, and you would have played that bit. Coventry 5-0. I remember Coventry 5-0. I think Eric scored a penalty. Did he score a penalty, Eric? I know Giggs scored. Do you know what? It was 5-0 at Old Trafford in 90. Oh, I should know the date. I did know the date as well. I remember being in year 2 at school. So, wow. I must have been what?
Mid-90s? It's got to be mid-90s, isn't it?
Earlier than that. Yeah. Earlier than that. So because I remember my first Wembley trip was against Oldham Athletic. Do you remember, Brian, when Sparky got the late equaliser?
Well, we all know who flicked the ball into Sparky, don't we?
Yeah. That's it. So yeah, that was the first one. So it was before then. It was a season 2 before then.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That game we've mentioned before. That
would have been the first game.
That Oldham game changed that whole season, didn't it? But
oh wow, yeah.
So I was thinking you'd be too young to remember Brian, but you.
No, I do. Of course, I remember Brian. Yeah, I do. Of course, I do. It was like, but Brian, don't want to make Brian feel old, but he was one of the very earliest. I remember. So obviously, I sort of would have just caught the end of. I just caught the end of Robbo.
Yeah.
That was when you were the father figure, wasn't it, Brian? You were bringing through the youth.
I was a teacher, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you wanted to be a teacher, so you.
Yeah, no. Well, that was what I was nicknamed after that famous game at Port Vale. Just for you talking
Vale,
about.
I'm there on Sunday.
All right. When you were talking about your dad there, Anthony, is there any particular nugget of wisdom that he imparted to you when you first started? When I know you were only about 8 or 9 or 10 when you went to boxing for the first time. Was he coaching there?
He used to coach a little bit, but I went back when I was 10. But my dad had sort of taken me along with him when I was a little bit younger, so I was 8. So my dad's he's never been one of those pushy dads, Brian. My dad, he was very much, listen, he supported, but it was also a little bit of probably a few little tests to see how much you want to do it and stuff like that. But I think any advice, it was always in boxing about your jab was so important. And as a young kid, it was the best punch throughout, just my jab. It was, everything would come off like just good basics.
Yeah.
You never get he'd always say, and I say it now to my fighters, you never get too good to not go over the basics again, remind yourself of the basics. Yeah. Good, solid basics, foundations. And I think that's in any sport, job. Yeah, but like my dad, I think like even sort of, well, I mean, we didn't have a car a lot of the time, but I think there was times where I think he'd set little tests where, unless he just couldn't be bothered taking me, I'm not sure, like, no, make your own way there to see if I went. Do you know what I mean? Just to little bits of character building and stuff like that. But which I think is important for any sort of young athlete, to see, you've got to let them think themselves a little bit. But yeah, no, I think it was just about just practicing, drilling the basics over and over.
when you were that age, I mean, we all, certainly I used to dream about being a professional football player, and you've been quoted of dreaming of being world champion at some point.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering if you were also dreaming as a 10-year-old of being on the cover of OK magazine and appearing in the chase. And appearing in the chase, you know, and maybe several other things.
Yeah, the chase as well.
I was wondering if that was a list there somewhere, you know. World champion, OK magazine, the chase.
No, it'd be mad. I never expected it. Never in a million years. Do you know what was mad about? You know what I went on the chase, Brian? You know the worst bit about it? My mates watched it. I done pretty well on it. Beat the chaser. Who was it? The Beast. That Mark is called, isn't it? The Beast. Got through, and me and Susie Dent off Countdown. We was the only ones who got through this. And Harry Redknapp, Harry got caught, bless him. Harry got caught very early. And then there was Ellie Scott, and she just been on Strictly Anti. She didn't get through. So there's two of us who got caught for second left. But we done well. We done all right. And the amount of people who rang me once it aired on television said, Did you know? Did he tell you the answers before you went on? And I was like, the disrespect was unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable.
You did better than you, Brian. Brian, you went on. You were a phone a friend on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, famously, and you let down poor old Fergie. Yeah,
I didn't want to be Anthony. I tried my best to get out of it, but he at the end of it, he just told me that I was doing it, you know, and that was it. So, and it just, you know, when you've just got one of those feelings, they're going to phone me. They're just going to phone me, and they just sure enough to phone me, and I didn't know the answer to the question. But the thing about similar sort of experience to you was that, you know, and it's the same thing as I say, that everybody that I met after that had been aired, right? So it's recorded, had been aired. Knew the answer. I can't believe didn't know the answer to that. I can't believe that every single person, you know. I'm like, fuck off, wankers. There's no way you know the answer to that, you know. But you can't. You just have to take your medicine, you know.
It's always the way when you're under pressure. It's different, isn't it?
Yeah, but part of that thing, I don't know if it happens to you, but that's been repeated so many times on all these different channels, you know. So it was on ITV, I think, prime time. Yes. He was on with Eamon Holmes as a partner, you know, and then it goes.
I remember it. I remember
4 or whatever, and it just kept every now and again. Somebody would pop up and go, I can't believe you didn't know the answer to that question. I'm like, fuck off. Somebody your age, right? There's a program that was even before. It was when I was a kid, right? Never mind. I knew the answer to that, you know. So I like that to be saying, you know, it must have pissed you off. The people, you think, what am I stupid about? You know, you can't.
Yeah, the repeats to the round.
Did they give you the answers?
Yeah, did they give you the answers? I can't believe how well you've done. I'm not having you knew the answers to that. I couldn't believe it.
Susie Dent's good company. I mean, she's an intelligent woman. So, you know, you two must have, you know, there's no shame in that, is there?
No, we did a second to go. We did, and it was it was good crack. It was like you say, it was. You know what? We had a good group. Harry Redknapp, he was great. He was a funny man. I've seen him a few times since, and the other girl, Ellie, she was great. But yeah, no, it was good doing. I've been lucky like that. I never imagined it. Well, Pointless. It was on Pointless Celebrity with Callum Smith.
You've been on Pointless.
Yeah, Pointless.
That's my favourite. That one.
Well, Brian was actually a pointless answer once, weren't you? Famously, Brian.
Yeah, I was Pointless.
Really? Yeah. We do you know what? We got to the final two teams, and the snooker players beat us. It was a bit too sharp for us.
What would you when you were making your raspberry chutney, Brian, at home in the afternoon? What sort of quiz shows do you watch to keep yourself entertained?
No, I don't. I mean, I'll always watch. When it's on, I'd watch Pointless. I think that's brilliant. But I've enjoyed watching the chase as well. I think there's very good stuff. I mean, anything that's on like that. I mean, I like 8 out of 10 Cats, which is not on in the afternoon, clearly. But, I thoroughly enjoy that as a concept. When it first came out, because I would be in Channel 4 started, I was 17, so I would watch Countdown.
Yeah,
I used to watch that.
You mentioned Countdown. You mentioned Countdown when you were on Millionaire, didn't you? Famously.
Yeah. No, I said that. No, I said.
Oh no, it was 15-1, wasn't it?
I said my bet.
Yeah.
I said I was being smart, trying to be smart, and kiss talent, I said my favourite was 15-1, and he made some remark about it.
Chelsea, didn't he? Yeah,
Chelsea, aye. So and then I fucked it up, so that made it even worse, by not knowing the answer,
It's all on YouTube for anyone that wants to.
Yeah. Sure, if anybody's got very little to do with their life.
So Pointless Celebrities is what the one you're aiming for when they're next looking for a former footballer, then, yeah? You're open to offers?
I'm too far gone from all of that now, really.
You say that. We're the third most listened to podcast in Bolivia.
I quite like to go to Bolivia.
Well, the way things are going, might be doing a show from there.
I have to brush up my Spanish.
I just wanted to go back to boxing briefly, and please don't answer this if you don't feel comfortable about it. But I was...
No, of course.
Back in 2014, you had a bit of a Duncan Ferguson incident where you caught a couple of burglars in your neighbour's house and you were badly hurt. And, we all know how badly hurt you were. I just wondered how badly that sort of could have affected your career in terms of confidence and how badly shaken up you were after that incident.
It could have, it could have affected it massively. And so, it could have ended it. It could have ended it, couldn't it, with the injuries and stuff like that. But, thankfully it didn't. I was very fortunate. But it sounds mad, but it was also a blessing. It was also a blessing. And what, you got it over the head of a concrete slab, and there's it doesn't sound like a blessing, but it made me rest up. It made me rest up. I'd probably not had a proper rest, where I was away from the boxing gym or out like that for. I couldn't tell you, from the age of 10, right through to when it happened. And I think that just sort of gave me some time to be away. And I was always a hard worker. But it made me, I remember thinking, if I get another chance to do this, because, it felt like everything had been snatched away, I will do absolutely everything I have and do everything right that I can, because when you don't realise how much you love something till it gets took away from you, do you? That's what they always say, and that was the case there. It very nearly did, and I believe it made me and I think the rest done my body a whole lot of good. Do you know what I mean? There's probably better ways to get a rest for sure, but I think the rest done me good. I come back sort of recharged and mentally, because I seen how close it was. At the time, I just sort of moved into a house with my missus and my little boy, and not long been in it. I'd only been in it a few months, and it was almost to the point where I thought, oh my God, I've got bills to pay, and if I can't box again, what we're going to do? And you know what? Listen, you find a way, a job, don't you? But it was just, it was hard, because your pride is on. I thought. At one point, I thought, will they have to, well, my wife and my little, will they have to go back to her mum and dad's, just because, it was hard. It was hard.
I suppose you could say your best days came after that, didn't they? So
yeah, absolutely did. No, they absolutely did.
I was going to say no harm done, but that's probably
no.
Not, there was harm done, but you know what I mean.
No, but there was the stranger ways to get publicity, but I think because of everything that happened as well. The publicity I got from it, that made me a little bit more determined as well, because your profile grew, because of everything.
Yeah,
and you got a phone call during that period of time where you thought
it
went up, didn't you?
Right, honestly, Ryan, I was there. I'll never forget it, and I was genuinely. I thought I was lay there when the phone call come through. I nearly put it down, and I thought someone on the wind up here, and it was just. I was on the medication and stuff, and I was thinking, what? You're in your head's just a bit all over. And then I really realised it was the man himself, Fergie. Yeah, Fergie rang me, but I just didn't expect it. I was just lay there, and the phone rang. But
it's funny when you're saying that, because when I saw the thing you're talking about, that it was a withheld number, and you went, I'm not answering that, and his is probably the only withheld number that ever occasionally phones me. And I nearly always know it's him. Right? I think, fucking hell, it's him. What have I done wrong?
Yeah. Even now.
Even now, I'm thinking, oh, fuck, what have I done wrong? You know, as a man sitting there, it's me. You know, and I'm thinking, oh, fuck. You know, for the first little bit before he says what he's wanted to say, you're thinking, I'm getting a bollocking for something.
Oh, yeah, what have I done wrong? And that's how it was, you know, that's how it was. So it was a Withell call. The Withell call, and someone saying the Sir Alex Ferguson, and I'm thinking, yeah, do you know what I mean? He didn't say Sir Alex, but do you know what I mean? You're just thinking, this is ridiculous, this stuff. I was thinking at the time, listen, I think I was that far away from going, listen, I've had a really bad couple of weeks, stop taking the piss. But yeah, it was him, and I was, I was buzzing. And I was like, I've seen him since. I remember meeting him when I was a kid. Do you remember the Cliff? I remember coming to the Cliff when I was younger. Obviously, I would have met you there, Brian, and stuff. But meeting Fergie then. But I've seen him since, and yeah, it's it was a special. It was one of the very most special phone calls I could ever have.
I mentioned Duncan Ferguson there, Brian. I mean, are there any footballers, past or present, who you would choose to have throwing hands on your behalf in a scrap if it came on top?
Well, Duncan would be one of them you'd have to have. He was just, I mean, Duncan was he's big, athletic, strong, and clearly was a fighter. He came from a scheming in Stirling. I'm sure he spent a lot of his time scrapping. He's scrapping from a day-to-day kind of basis. So I think you'll find that there'll be a lot of professional football players who, part of their upbringing, would have gone to boxing.
Well, you know, one that I didn't realise until I watched this film recently on a flight was Wayne Rooney.
Yeah,
he seemed to be more into boxing.
Wayne loves his boxing.
Yeah, it's like he wanted to be a fighter more than he wanted to be a footballer, from what I gather in that documentary. So
he had the strongest grip of anybody I've ever come across as a handshake. He was ridiculous. His hands were like rock hard and so powerful, you know. And he was at that kind of body would have made a very good fighter at a particular weight, you know, powerful for the size of him, you know, and very strong and probably difficult to hit because he was so quick as well.
Do you think he could have made it? And do you think he had some?
Yeah, he would have. He would have. I've seen little bits of Wayne with the boxing, and now he's all right. But he loves the boxing, and he comes say from a bit of a boxing family. I think it's his uncle. Uncle John. He was an amateur coach, coaching kids in the area. I remember his younger brother. Was it Graham? Yeah, I think it was Graham. He boxed. He wasn't bad. He only boxed till he was like early teenager, but he wasn't bad at all. Good little fighter, and it was thinking. No, he would have been all right for sure.
I reckon he would. I'd like to see him in one of those celeb boxing matches. I think he'd probably blow himself out by about the second round. But
he'd be all right. He'd be all right. But I know he's a big boxing fan. I know the Smiths sort of from Liverpool there. Yeah. Good mates with him, and he'll watch them all and stuff. And there's a few times at the arena. And he come to watch us as well a few times, which I was really thankful for. But he'd come to the big fights there and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one as well with Matthew is Jim Ryan. Going back to Jim used to quite enjoy learning little bits of different languages, you know. So he was doing a little bit of French, and he decided he would have a little conversation with Cantona. You know, we used to go up to the coach's room in the morning, read the papers, and Jim decided he would throw in a couple of little things to Eric, you know. And the question he asked Eric was, he said to Eric, why have there only been 3 French world heavyweight champions, right? And he named Carpentier was one, and I can't remember the other one.
Yeah.
You know, and he could clearly say the French champ, whatever it was, and Eric went, no. Toi. And Jim's like that. No, de Carpentier. And that's the other one. Eric goes, no, toi. He goes, Carpentier. The other guy, moi.
He fancied himself, did he?
Well, he used to leather his teammates, didn't he?
Well, he looked like he could. We all know what he could be like. But...
No, he battered a few in his time, man. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, on and off the pitch.
So there'd be, I think him and Keno and Duncan would make a particularly fearsome trio if you're looking at a stable of ex-players to be boxers. And Pally as well, because he had a bit of long reach, Pally and all, you know. So
yeah, they'd have had you
from
back.
the northeast as well, wasn't he, Pally? They all know how to box up there.
You'd have to get Pally really, really angry, take away his quality street or something like that, or he'd use more teasers. But if you managed to get him into a bad mood, I would see him as a little bit. You've had that sort of celebrity stuff as well, haven't you? Clayton Blackmore's done a bit of that, hasn't he?
Yeah, I remember Clayton. He done all right. Clayton. Do you remember Bez? He beat up Bez, actually.
Yeah, beat Bez.
From the After Mondays.
Yeah, so... his first one was against John Aldridge, and he chunters away Clayton, and he'll just keep mentioning this about Aldridge. And this is years ago. I would have beat him, for just a bit more time to practice it.
He did say that to me. He said it to me.
It's just like, what are you on about, Clayton? You know, it's like, fucking makes no difference to you, you know. Fucking Pally pulled out at the last minute, you know. I'm like, shut up, you know.
You know what? I remember he told me this exact story because he was there with his little media day, and they said, we just ordered a few pads for a few of the fights. I was yeah. I was saying, Clayton, have you done a bit? And he started telling me that sort of, stepped in last minute, and yeah.
Life with Brian, life with Brian, life with Brian.
Can you see any, celeb boxing? Would you come back for one of these? Would you fight a media influencer if the money was big enough, or are you not interested in all that kind of stuff that goes on there?
Me or Brian is this?
Oh, both of you. I was thinking, Brian's a media influencer these days, so we could see you against Brian in the ring.
No, I don't think that wouldn't last very long. I'd just be like running away from him.
Well, you'd have Cantona and Keno.
I've seen him. It's like, no way that'd be anywhere. No way getting me. I don't like in close spaces, like that. I like to be. My thing was when I was growing up, Anthony, was that always the ability to run away.
He was a good runner.
So I could run, keep running. People would give in. Get me in a box and in the closed space, and I can't run away. And that'd be like a huge problem for me. I never done any of that. Never done any boxing. You had a few tear-ups. You had a few tear-ups on the pitch, though. I don't remember punching it. Well, I do remember punching somebody.
Yeah. But we have had Nigel Winterburn on this show, and
but I didn't punch him, though, did I?
No, you didn't. You got punched.
You punched Mark Ward.
Oh yeah. And I think you would have punched Mark Bright. Was it Mark Bright?
The fight in the pitch when he was in the goalmouth.
Yeah, when he kicked you. Yeah.
Again, I was in close space again, and I was trapped a bit there.
Like a cornered animal.
Yeah, I would be a bit like that. Yeah, I don't like being stuck in I wouldn't like that at all. No. I would have probably thrown a few haymakers. But
you got a bit of reputation. But Anthony, you're seen as one of the sort of probably the nicer guys of boxing. And does that ever bother you that people think you're the golden
I just always thought, I always thought everyone would go, he'd never have trouble, or there'd never be any heated head to head. For me, it was just a job. It was just a job. And do you know what I think? 9 times out of 10, you see these grudge matches and stuff, and they shake hands after it anyway. So I think I'd just be thinking, if you want to shake my hand, shake my hand. If you don't want to shake my hand, you don't have to shake my hand, and that's it. Do you know what I mean? I think I wouldn't get invested in it. I see, seen some fighters in the past get worked up and tensed up, and do you know what I mean? And it's like, I think 9 times out of 10 they shake hands after it anyway, don't they? But it's just a job. It's just a job, isn't it? So I think, once that bell went, it's very different, isn't it? And then once the bell goes again, you shake hands before, shake hands after. Yeah. And I probably think it's probably similar on a pitch in most sports, before it, and then you're competing against each other, you're battling against each other, aren't you, for until that final whistle or that bell goes.
Yeah, I remember the David Hay Bellew sort of trilogy.
Yes, two. No, the second one.
Two, and I remember going to the weigh-in there, and all that stuff that was going on. And half the time, you think to yourself, this is all just to sell tickets, which it probably is. So and they seem to be pretty.
Now they're
close
great
afterwards. They're good mates,
now,
So you start to wonder, but I suppose it's all entertainment.
But it works. People bought into it and it done good numbers for them. They got very well paid. And,
it was good. It was good. I mean, talking of which, since hanging up your gloves, you've sort of thrown yourself into a bit of punditry, haven't you, for various pieces? Is that something you've enjoyed and you thought you might do?
I do enjoy it. And it's, I've been lucky actually because, the phone's been going more and more. And I just think, basically, you've got one of the best seats in the house and, you're around the big fights and it helps fill that void, doesn't it? It helps fill that void. And, it's great. You get paid for talking about something you love.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I enjoy sort of watching the fight and giving me opinion for whatever it's worth.
Yeah.
Some to some, not much to some as well. But it's just, and that's it. That's it. It's but I do, you not from a selfish point of view, but I'm sure in any sport when you compete at a real high level, you miss those highs, don't you? And you need to find ways to fill them. Find ways to fill those voids, and when you go into big shows still, and you work alongside, you've got one of the best seats in the house. You still get that buzz. It's a little bit different, but you get that buzz. So no, that helps massively. But no, I do. I enjoy the punditry side of things, massively.
Yeah, because they say the hardest thing is to fill that void, probably for boxing more than anything.
Yeah,
Brian, you'd know about football, but boxers seem to struggle probably more than most. I'd say. So it's, with that and the coaching, I suppose
That's it. I'm still around the gym. I imagine, again, and I'll keep referring to it, but with the football, you probably miss that banter in the changing rooms, the crack with everyone and stuff like that. Whereas now I still have that, but I'm probably not as, well, I'm certainly not. I don't have to be watching what I'm eating all the time, or, I want the odd drink, I can have the odd drink. Do you know what I mean? So it's just, you're still around it all, but without the pressure of everything.
Yeah. You don't. Did you feel that, Brian, when you hung up your boots? I mean, you obviously went into coaching for. Well.
Yeah, but I was. I had always been conscious that I had this kind of idea in my head that if I got to 35 and still be playing professional football, that I'd done well, because it just seemed to be a number that I saw that not many players, certainly in my age, my year, or certainly before that, would have played much longer than that. Certainly a lot more now, because they don't play as many games in my view. Just they're all wrapped up. They should play till they're nearly 40 now. I mean, certainly if you're like Buffon, who was playing the other night for Parma, when he's 44, isn't he?
Yeah, over in Italy. Wow.
Goalkeeper though is still a different thing there. Yeah, but and I was always aware that I was going to have to go and do something else. I found teaching and coaching football kind of fell into that. It wasn't a plan, but I was kind of very much prepared. So when I stopped playing, I realised that I could stop, because a lot of players are not prepared for it, because they live in La La Land at times, and it comes very quickly, and the change is very, very immediate, and that's why an awful lot of players have certainly football players go through all sorts of emotional, mental, physical problems straight after they finish playing. So I think that football, and particularly the PFA, do some fantastic work with regards to players and the needs of players when they finish playing. As I say, mine was I was resigned to the fact I knew that I couldn't really do it anymore. And you needed to have really good players around about you, Anthony, So
yeah,
when I finished playing, the players I was playing with them at the best level, and you end up being the one that's taking the brunt of the criticism for it,
Yeah.
Which is, I can understand that. That's just the way it is, So. But I look back at it and thinking, no, but I look back at me as a 13, 14, 15-year-old daydreaming, and the reality, including the reality right up to now, is far surpassed my dreams, as I'm sure yours has as well,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, on that same note, I mean, I was reading up, I was going to ask you to tell us more about this work you do, Anthony, with Maverick Stars Trust Initiative.
Yes.
It delivers free boxing sessions, team building days, guest speakers, and mental health first aid for former servicemen and women. So I assume that's a similar kind of thing. Is it giving people something to throw?
Of course, I remember, Maverick Stars, the charity I work a lot with, throughout the gym and for other ways, really. Even when I remember when the lockdown was on, and obviously they've done something very similar, more or less the same. Obviously when Marcus Rashford was doing the free school meals. So where my gym is, it's on an estate in, it's called Limeside. It just falls into Oldham, actually. And it's, it's a bit of a wild estate, but there's also a lot of families who struggle on there. Do you know what I mean? There's, have you ever saw Shameless?
Oh, yeah.
It's got similarities to that. But there's some great people on there. But but all joking aside, there's some families who struggle on there. So we used to do Maverick Stars through the gym myself, giving them out, provided by Maverick Stars. We would do free school meals, in the holidays and in the lockdown, for them to make sure there was kids who wasn't going hungry. And they've done a lot of great programs, like that. And then we have, it's one of my friends who's one of the other coaches there. He takes that class. I just fill in for him if he's away or I can't make it. But we'll have some of the old veterans and stuff like that. It's they do a lot of great courses, and sometimes for sort of, for single mums who've struggled or who've come from tough times themselves, there'll be courses that are running at the gym from there. And I think it's nice to give back, isn't it? Yeah. It's always nice to give back. So it's not just
it's not purely boxing then. It's a whole community.
Yeah, it's a bit of a community up at times, but it's mainly boxing, like the classes, whether it be for the veterans, whether it be for the the single mums who've had things really tough, with boxing and stuff, but we'll also help them out in other ways. That's boxing. But like the meals was basically us dropping them off. Do you know what I mean? It weren't like, oh, pat me on the back or out like that, because I felt like, I was dropping the meals off at the houses and stuff, but it was also really rewarding, and it was very humbling as well. When you see what some people so close to home, you think you only see it on television or different parts of the world, but it's happening on your doorstep at times.
Yeah, and I think there's something about boxing, isn't it? I mean, I've been to Amir Khan's gym in Bolton where Callum Smith used to train, and again, it's very much sort of, I remember walking down there thinking, am I in the right place? It's right in the middle of, the
it's crazy. Oh, the estate, the Lidl or the Aldi next to it. There's always a lot of characters outside. Yeah.
So for as much as boxing's a big money sport, and a glitzy sport, it's kind of almost really ingrained in the community as well, isn't it?
Of course, massively. There's a big thing at the minute. I think any amateur boxing club, you beg MPs to go in, because what they do for the community. And we have it again, like with the amateur club, and like the beginners class of free sessions we put on for the kids, on the estate and stuff like that. You see some of them come into that, and even some of them might have no confidence, and then they end up competing for the club, and it's fantastic. And listen, not every kid's going to compete, but you just see them change as young people, or one, they might not have confidence, or there might be the other exception, like one or two of the lads who come in and bit of attitude about them, and it's been like not knocked out of them physically, but they just change and just become young, respectable, people, and it's nice. That's nice as well.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we got 2 or 3 questions that we've got sent in, but before we do, I just wonder whether Brian's got anything else scribbled on the back of his hand that he likes to ask, because I know
the only question I wanted to ask was, did you choose your own music to enter the ring?
Do you know what it was? It was listen, I am a big Whitney fan though, right? I'm not going to lie, I'm a massive Whitney fan. I need to see the new film, but no, it was just simply because of the song title. It went, but yeah, it went well. It went well in the end, but yeah, I don't know many boxers who come out to Whitney Houston, but I was one of the few.
Where did the $1 million come from? Was it you, or was it someone did it?
No, do you know what it was? It was obviously the rhyme the name rhyme, but do you remember the film with Hilary Swank, $1 Million Baby?
Yeah.
So it was a great movie, and $1 Million Baby, $1 Million Crolla, bang, it just went, and ever since there, that was it.
So you came up with it, yeah? Or someone
I did,
tagged
really.
it?
It's a bit vain calling myself that.
I think in boxing, I think in boxing you can get away with it. Not like in not like in football, Brian. Going around calling yourself Choccy. Yeah,
I love it. When I think about it now, it was a bit of a.
Montclair's mailbag. Montclair's mailbag. Montclair's mailbag.
Yes, it's time to hit the bag. The mailbag, that is. Matthew's got your questions for Choccy and Anthony.
And this first one's Chris Etchingham, and it's for you, Brian, actually. He says, as a part-time QPR fan, he wants to ask about the famous gubbing they gave you at Old Trafford on New Year's Day 1992. And more
What gave you a part-time fan?
Well, he says
you only a fan when they win.
He was only a fan that day, apparently. And he said, "What happened? What's Fergie's reaction after the game?" And you've got to put this to bed. Everyone says that you lot were out on the lash the night before. I know you denied it, but
no, we weren't. No,
definitely.
Though it is the 31st of December's Alex Ferguson's birthday, and it's also Steve Bruce's birthday. No, we stayed in a hotel in town. But there was a bit of a, as in even now, there was a little bit of a flu bug going around. So not all of us were feeling it the best, shall we say. Maybe it's part of it was to do with the fact that it was a kind of change, sometimes a change of environment can upset your rhythm. But they played very well.
Yeah.
Dennis Bailey scored a hat-trick.
You obviously scored for United.
Yeah,
so that probably saved you a bollocking from. That's probably saved you a bollocking.
No, we wouldn't have. No, we would have all got it. We would have. I don't particularly. I remember Dennis coming in to get his ball signed, and I'm saying that we were a bit rude to him, but I think we were mainly shell shocked because of the air dryers we just all had. We were all just kind of feeling sorry for ourselves rather than this. And we signed his ball and all that kind of thing, but I think he hadn't experienced what we had just experienced. So we weren't in the, let's say, the best of humour really to have some kind of gravitas with somebody who had particularly just scored 3 goals.
I mean, I think it says something about that United team is that every time that game comes up, everyone's so shocked that they all assume that you were pissed, which is a compliment, really, isn't it? Because
but it wasn't that. I suppose it would have been, but no, that would have been. I mean, Alex Ferguson never ever allowed anything like that to ever happen. I mean, we were only started to be allowed to have a glass of wine the night before with dinner when Monsieur Cantona signed. So there was never any of that. It was just. Sometimes you get those particular events, they played well. I mean, it's like you keep hearing people talking about it. The fact it was one of I was a manager of a game the other night, and I don't know why he was saying it, but it must have been one of the cup games, and he's saying, "Well, we've got to be at our very best, and we hope we can't say we're an off day." And I don't know, which is okay, I think, to say in the dressing room. I don't know why he was saying it publicly, because if you've already spoke to and nowadays the players can get to see everything, with either on the phones or even televisions in all the dressing rooms. I think that would have been a bit of a negative thing. And I was a bit surprised that he was clearly trying to stimulate his team, and he probably did that in the dressing room. And I thought right away, no, that would be a down. If I was a player, and now you're saying, oh, by the way, we've got no chance unless they're shit tonight. You've got to just turn around and say that, it's a one-off game. You've got a chance. That was just a one-off game.
Yeah,
QPR did very well.
Had a massive
hat-trick.
Had a massive knock-on effect on the season, though, didn't it? Because you could argue you never came back from that. I mean, I was watching every game that season. I remember after that, it was pretty much it knocked the stuffing out of you, didn't it?
I don't think it was that particular game, though.
No. Mm-hmm. I mean, do you have off days in boxing, Anthony, like that, where you could just put it down to like nothing you can say?
No, I think there's no sportsman or sports team who doesn't have off days, and not through under preparing. Sometimes you can over prepare, or sometimes it's just not your day. It's yeah, of course you do. You know, I've done it. I've had it in the ring, not just in the gym, on the night as well. And there's nothing more frustrating. I think the hard thing with boxing was you're not gonna play like a lot of the time. I mean, it's different if you go out of a cup or something like that. But you know, if you have a bad game in the league, hopefully you've got a game either 3 or 4 days later or the week later. But yeah, in the boxing, you've sort of, no one will see the good work you do in the build-up. So sometimes you're waiting months and months to put that right. So yeah, no, but everyone has them. Everyone has bad days, don't they?
Talking of drubbings in December, I've actually been looking, when you mentioned that Coventry game at the start of the show, United 5, Coventry 0, December 28th, 1992. Goals from Ryan Giggs, Mark Hughes, Kansar, Lee Sharp and Dennis Irwin. So I'm assuming that's the game you're talking about. That
is the one, yeah, it is. I remember it was... was there a penalty? Was one of them a penalty?
Oh, it doesn't... it just says Cantona added to the game towards the end of the game. He added to the score. It doesn't say if it's a penalty.
I don't think.
I imagine you probably remember, because you remember those things, don't you, when you're a kid?
You do. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking with Eric, but I remember also Dennis used to take penalties as well, didn't he? So
yeah, I think Eric used to take them.
Right back then,
yeah, back then, because Brian, you weren't reliable from the spot. But yeah, that was the game. Oh yeah, I remember it now. Anyway, so we got one for you, Anthony. This is one. Yep. Former amateur boxer Lee Barwise in Whitehaven, Cumbria, near your favourite place, Brian, Barrow in Furness. Yeah. And he says, what's Anthony's opinion of these YouTubers / influencers holding boxing tournaments, which is funny because we mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, listen, it's a controversial one, right? Because you know what it is? There's a huge YouTube, something called Misfits Boxing on this weekend on DAZN. It's box office as well. And I think, do you want to see it? I think from a boxing point of view, if you pay for that, like, wow. But this social media has become such a huge thing. It's not social media, sorry, this YouTube boxing has become such a huge thing. And they're not under the British Boxing Board of Control. So it's one of them. It's hard. Like, I just think there's a different market for it, and that is almost a market of its own. Yeah. I mean, it's different when for instance, you've got Jake Paul and Tommy Fury. I don't know if Brian will know Jake Paul or not. Do you know what I mean? But I didn't know who. I don't know who half of these young people are. But then there's a few schools who come into the gym and they'll be on about, oh, such a body's fighting KSI, such a body's this, that. Yeah. I've absolutely no idea. But it's just like, if they're doing their own thing, listen, I've got no problem with it. The one thing I would say is when they box, there's a few box on a professional card, I try and look at the positives and think, you know what? There's a ridiculous amount of views that they get. Hopefully some of them stay in boxing, or it inspires a few of them to go to the gym, even if it's not competing. Some kid who might, I'm not stereotyping, although it does sound like it, some kid who's not getting enough exercise, spending too much time on YouTube. If you've seen one of them boxing, hopefully it gets them to the gym. I try and take the positives out of it, but it is crazy when you think the amount of money that they're making and stuff through boxing when you get some professionals who don't earn nearly that in a full career.
Yeah, I was thinking that you've kind of answered my question. I was going to say the positive could be that if all these people are talking about it, they're talking about boxing, they might want to get into it, and then on the back end, you know, either that or they're going to be a YouTuber.
It is.
The other way.
It's mad, but like you say, that YouTube world is just absolutely insane. You know, like when you look at the views they get and what I think they do to get the views, like I'll be watching some of them and I'll be thinking, this is just mental.
Don't forget, we've got our own YouTube channel, by the way, Life with Brian McClare podcast, by the way. Just cheap
Get it out there,
yeah. I mean, we can add to our 30-odd followers we've got. He says with the likes of Mayweather fighting at exhibition events, etc., would you ever consider an exhibition-type contest in years to come, and who would be the opponent? I mean...
I think maybe one of these YouTubers now, because I'd still be able to look after myself. But no, listen, it doesn't interest me. Listen, it doesn't interest me. People say, oh, you got paid a fortune for it. Listen, if you got paid a fortune for it, yeah, I'd consider it, but it just doesn't interest me,
Yeah, no.
Getting back in there like that and stuff like that, really, no.
Do you think it's a bit sad seeing people like Mayweather? I know, he's an incredible record, a brilliant fighter, and then you think, why are you doing that? It might tarnish it slightly.
He's never going to lose to the type of people he's in with. But there's my thing, I just think there's got to be some poorly people out there who are willing to pay him millions to do that. Like, why wouldn't you just stick one of his old fights on YouTube and watch him at his best?
Yeah.
But that's it. It's like you said, there's going to be, is it the O2 at weekend? There's going to be a packed out O2. There's going to be however many thousands and thousands of views on box office. There's a market for it. Whether we like it or not, there's a market for it, isn't there?
Yeah, I think that's the fair thing, because I do that. I slag things off and I think, well, it's like you listen to a record and you go, who's buying that crap? Yeah. And then you go, well, if people are, they are. So you can't really, the public are the public. Apparently Lee's a big Liverpool fan, Brian, which we've got, we've obviously got some listeners that are. And he's asked you, Choccy, who was the best Liverpool player you ever played against?
The best Liverpool player?
Yes.
Certainly the one who played the most consistently best for Liverpool in my time was John Barnes.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I didn't play against him, but like watching him,
John Barnes
terrifying me. Yeah. No, I can. Although that team of there, 87, 88, I think you could pick anyone out of that.
Oh yeah, they were. I mean, I did like that. There was full of good players. So Stevie Nicol, I like Stevie Nicol.
Yeah.
Liked him as a person. I think he was very much underrated.
Yeah, classic utility player, wasn't he? Steve McMahon as well, player, hard, fair. Yeah, I think. Yeah, John Barnes, a fair answer. And finally, it wouldn't be the mailbag without something from Cumbrian Dave. So here he is with a question for Anthony.
Hello guys, Happy New Year. One for Anthony. Out of all of his fights, which in his opinion was his best boxing performance?
Best performance. I would probably say the night defending the world title against the Venezuelan. Had it in Venezuela. Even though I was champion, I was a pretty big underdog. Ismael Barroso, and I managed to tuck up early on. Ride an early storm, come over. Come through, sort of take over, and then stop me body shots. I would say that was me. The atmosphere that night was unbelievable, and I think a lot of people were shocked, and it really announced sort of. I think it was one thing was sort of walking to the ring as a world champion, and then walking back with it as well. It was very special. So yeah, I'd say that was probably my finest hour.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Yeah, I can see why.
Yeah.
And there goes the bell for the end of today's contest. Episode. And firstly, of course, a massive thanks to Anthony Crolla for coming and chatting with us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, boys. And
thanks, Anthony.
We'll catch up soon, boys.
Brian and Matthew, a pleasure as always, guys. I expect to see you both sparring in the gym soon. Thanks, dear listener, for giving us your eartime. And now for the usual reminder to subscribe to Life with Brian on your favoured podcast platform. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Brian McClare Pod, and to check out our partners Sports Social Podcast Network at The Sports Social and sport-social.co.uk. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.
Life with Brian. Life with Brian. Talking films or music. Life with Brian. Talking TV and food. Life with Brian. Talking trivia and exercise. Life with Brian. It's different every episode. Life with Brian. Talking politics and football. Life with Brian. It's different every episode. Life with Brian. Life with Brian.